Become a wealth creator today. Text VISIT to 800-454-1184 to schedule your 15-minute call with Eric and his team. That's VISIT to 800-454-1184.
Did you know the average American worker will hold about 12 different jobs over their career? And if you've worked for more than one company and you've saved in more than one 401k, all the more reason to get some guidance on getting your finances in order for retirement. And that is what Eric and I are going to talk about today. He has some great insights to share with us. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio. Let's start off with the phone number so you can put that in your phone. Have that handy, 800-454-1184. That is the number to call for a complimentary appointment, 800-454-1184. Another thing you can do with that number is text the word toolbox. All right, just text. It's so easy. And then you can get really just a complimentary toolbox. It's a digital toolbox for all the things you need for a successful retirement. It has Eric's books in there, plus some other reports that you can get. So again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. And we just thank you so much for joining us. WealthCreatorRadio.com for more details. Eric, hello. So glad to be here with you.
Yeah, good to be back. And, after did a lot of cycling throughout Canada and rode 100 kilometers, 62 miles in all 10 provinces, and did a epic RV trip with my middle son who really wanted to see Canada. So it worked out for us. And so, back to real life.
I know it. Back to real life.
Right. Yeah. And helping people. I mean, the nice thing is even as I was traveling, my team was able to help people out. I did do one or two phone calls with clients, but, the nice thing is, we've got built up a nice team here where, it doesn't have to be me all the time answering all the questions and stuff. So when people do have those questions about those 401ks, there is somebody always here to answer them. And a lot of people definitely have way too many 401ks all over the place. So good subject to go over.
Good. And I just want to say congratulations. Wow. Quite a feat. And you said Canada is a lot bigger than we think.
Yeah. 5,000 miles driving in 3 weeks is a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. Well, we are so glad to have you back with us and so glad it was a successful ride. All right. So we always talk about how retirement has changed so much really over the past couple of decades. And then so has employment for the way we save for retirement. We have this recent study in front of us. It's called Back at Square One. Research shows the folly of cashing out of a 401k when you're leaving the job. It says that over half of today's workers are employed in occupations that didn't even exist in 1940. I think that's crazy. And then, like we said, American workers hold about 12 jobs over their lifetime. They stay with each employer for about 4 years on average. So what are you experiencing with the retirees you're helping?
Well, lots of times I joke with people that, I don't need to see your resume or LinkedIn profile. I can just look at your statements and of your 401ks and know everywhere where you worked. Because sometimes they'll have them out there. My personal record of anybody coming in was 9 different 401ks.
What?
Yeah.
9.
Crazy. Yeah. So, but I've had, I think 3 that I can remember off the top of my head, I guess, of 3 different instances where people all of a sudden found out they had a 401k they forgot about.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of them was $80,000. I mean, these are not small things to forget about, right? And
right.
So that's one of the dangers too, is lots of times is people may leave these behind and not think about it, or, you either didn't like the new job or you got excited about the new job or whichever it was, right? And then all of a sudden, what happened to that old 401k? You may have left it there and now what, right? So yeah, so it is really critical to have have really a goal and a plan for those older accounts.
Some people, they're saying almost half of employees are cashing out of their 401ks when they leave that job. So they're not even caring about the taxes they may experience or any penalties for early withdrawal. And then they say they're setting themselves up really for going back to square one, really, with their savings.
Yeah, I mean, these are the worst places ever to try to take money out of, because it's a 10% federal penalty, a 2.5% state penalty on the full balance. Then it's all taxable income. And so if you throw in, that's also going to more than likely raise your tax bracket. So often you can see taxes hit 50% on these withdrawals because, you get 12.5% of just penalties and then throwing just normal taxes. And it can be pretty brutal. And lots of times people aren't very smart about that. So you definitely want to roll that over. It's a lot smarter, a lot better way to go. And, do a direct transfer. So which means you say, go from this institution to this institution. You can roll it to an IRA. You can roll it to your new 401k. Usually the benefit of the IRA is that allows you to invest in any type of investment, whereas the 401k, only allows you to pick that certain, options that company has. And a lot of companies keep changing their 401ks around, and lots of times the funds they pick are ones that are, they actually make more money off of the clients, the participants, meaning the employees, right? So they'll pick funds that pay the sponsor of the fund, lots of times, sponsor of the 401k money to pay for the admin. And so sometimes they're not the cheapest funds. And then a lot of times there's not something that's guaranteed typically at a 401k. There's not stuff that pays high dividends. There's, a lot of other things that you might want to do. So IRAs often can be the easier way to go. But again, you always want to move it from trustee to trustee. And one of the things is just really getting educated. And that's one of the things that we're really focused on here at Heckman Financial. So one of the great things we built up was this digital resource called the Toolbox, the Wealth Creator Toolbox, where it's got a lot of quick downloads of things that you can read really fast. And it even has a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, or you can even set up a time to talk with us if you had questions on these rollovers. So that's all located at the digital Toolbox. So pretty easy to get. All you have to do is text the word Toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word Toolbox to 800-454-1184, or you can download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we just thank you so much for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. He's founder at Heckman Financial right here in the Silicon Valley area, helping retirees have remarkable retirements for the past, over 30 years now. So, Eric, when we are taking money from those 401ks or IRAs, again, we have to be mindful of that tax impact. So take us through how you talk to your retirees about taxes.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. One is there are a couple special circumstances. If you're trying to retire before 59 and a half, you may want to leave your money in a 401k. Because there's a special tax rule that says if you leave your company, you can take the money out without a penalty if you're 55 and over. So there is some stuff like that. If you have company stock, which really isn't too big anymore, but probably the biggest one around here that still has it is Lockheed. But if you have company stock in there, there's a super great tax benefit that you can do. So you really want to be careful and get some really good advice before you do any sort of rollover there. But for the most part, people should typically roll it to an IRA because then you can control when you take it out. The hard part is when it's in a 401k, you have to always withhold 20% taxes when you take the money out, for federal. And that's probably not too bad, but for most of my retiree clients, it's the correct number is more like 15%. And then the other issue is when you have that required minimum distribution, that's when you used to be 70 and a half. Now it's 72. Then it went to 73. And if you're born after 1960, it's 75. So it's a little bit more confusing than it used to be. But that age when you're in your 70s, we'll just say that, where you have to start taking money out of your retirement plans. If you have IRAs, you can take it from any IRA. But if you have 401k, you have to take it from every single 401k. And that, again, is something when you're 75, right? You might not necessarily be on top of all those things. You might not be remembering all that stuff. So, rolling to an IRA just typically always makes it a lot easier, a lot simpler. So again, that's one of those things where, get that information, download some of these great reports that we have that are, talking about, are you paying too much money in taxes in retirement? Will your money last as long as you do? All these great things that are up there at our site at the Digital Toolbox. And then again, if you wanted to, after that, set up a time to talk, we're here to help you. So all you have to do is text the word Toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word Toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Eric Heckman and Wealth Creator Radio will be right back with more.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. There's a particular time of life this phrase couldn't be more appropriate. How can you know you'll live the retirement you've always imagined? After all, life can be so unpredictable. You've worked hard and saved. Watch your accounts go up and down with the market. Your advisor says, don't worry, you'll be fine. But you still don't feel confident. Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has a checklist to help you find out if you're on the right track for retirement. Take his checklist challenge. If you can check all the boxes with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, Eric can help you address any potential costly mistakes. To get Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial's complimentary checklist, call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. See if you've got it right. Take the checklist challenge today. Call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Hi, you're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial, and he is here to guide you about retirement and finding that wealth that you need in retirement, having that successful retirement. You know, when you think about it, there are so many moving parts when it comes to preparing for retirement. When should I take my Social Security? When might I accidentally trigger higher taxes? Or what if I make a wrong move with my retirement savings? And there are so many decisions that can impact each other, Eric, that you could say that retirement planning is kind of like trying to figure out a Rubik's Cube, right?
Yeah, no, certainly. And, those things can be tough unless you're a kid and you've got a lot of time to do them.
Well, I was going to say, were you ever any good at them? I would think you would be. You're a smart guy.
I think at one point whenever that was in the 80s, I guess, or something, when they were going, I was able to solve them after a while. But,
wow.
I think the neat thing nowadays is people do the artwork out of those. Those are pretty fun to watch. But
oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't know about this. The creative side of it. Okay.
Yeah. It is one of those critical things to know about Social Security and see how that literally does fit in the puzzle of retirement, because it's one of the bigger pieces, and it's one of the ones that if you find out later you did it wrong, nothing you can do about it. So you want to do it right the first time.
Yeah, it's interesting you just brought up Social Security, because I wanted you to give us examples of retirement decisions impacting other areas of our plan. So Social Security.
Yeah, so definitely taking Social Security, at the wrong times can be bad. Probably the biggest one out there is before your full retirement age. So, if you're born 55 to 59, you're some version of 66 in a few months. If you're born 1960 and after, that's 67. But, if you are working or sometimes you say, oh, I'm not going to work. And so you stop working, people turn on Social Security, and then they get a good job offer or somebody recruits them to come back. And then guess what? Oops, hold it. You made too much money. And once you make over about 21 grand, they start taking $1 for every $2 that you make over that amount.
Yikes.
So for most people, once you make about 60, 70 grand, all the Social Security will get paid back, and you'll keep that penalty for starting too soon. That can be a big mess. And so, yeah, you definitely do want to watch that. And, probably the other one that I see a lot of, it's a little bit sneakier, is, is lots of times people will either sell stuff or they'll do a Roth conversion and they're over 65. Well, that shouldn't be a big deal, right? Except for this is what sounds like a nice old lady, Irma. But she's not. So
she's not nice.
So Irma is this calculation for a monthly adjustment to your Medicare premiums. And if you make too much money this year, over around 191, then you might start paying 40%, 100%, up to 240% higher Medicare premiums based on your income. And so again, that's something where this tax thing or that tax thing hits and you did something and it doesn't show up on a tax return. It shows up not right away, but it shows up a lot later. And so that's one of the things that you have to watch out for is that sneaky little Medicare, not a tax, but a Medicare premium increase. It's based off your taxes. So let's just call it a tax.
Right. Yeah, why not, right? So what are some key pieces? Let's just go through that again of a retirement income strategy, and then we'll move from there.
Well, the biggest thing is what do you have coming in on a systematic basis, right? What can you count on? So, obviously Social Security, if you have a pension, if you have any set dollar amounts, if you have any monies guaranteed from an insurance company that's coming in on, a monthly basis. So those are things that kind of give you your baseline pay, right? That's kind of like your main income. And then, most people usually have a gap, and that gap is how much money do you need to make that monthly income that you need. And so that's going to be coming out of wherever else, right? Your investments, your savings. And so, you need to know how much is that fixed amount. And then you need to know how much is going to be coming out from, other sources and which sources those are. And so that's one of the key things that you have to be, really knowing and, having that information, knowing, will your money last? Are you paying too much in tax? Which ones should you take money from? How do you get Social Security? Those are all items that are in our toolbox. And so that's a digital toolbox that's free to download. If you want to get access to that toolbox, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Or you can download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And again, you're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. Eric and his team are here to guide you with all these confusing and questions that we have about retirement. We're all bombarded with. He and his team can explain it to you in a much easier conversation, and they are offering a chance for you to go in and see them. So take them up on this. All right, let's talk more Social Security now, because it is one of the pieces of our retirement income puzzle. Tell us how you help someone decide when it makes sense for them to file. Don't do what your neighbor is doing or someone else at work is doing.
Yeah, well, so one of the worst things out there, and a lot of financial advisors, sadly, even use these type of tools, is that they'll look at these numbers of, hey, if I start Social Security at 70 versus 67 or 65, whatever the, other date is, somewhere in my late 70s, early 80s will be when it would have made more sense to, wait. And so, okay, because of that, I should wait. Well, okay, what's missing there, right? Well, what's your health status? What are your other assets, other things? Are you really going to wait to retire, or you're talking about just not having any money for quite some time while you're retired? Because you can do that. You don't have to have your Social Security turned on to retire. I find 65 is still the number one age for people to retire, mainly because of Medicare, but lots of times now it's 60 in your 66s or 67s, full retirement age. But what happens to your other assets, right? So if you go to retire and you don't want to turn on that Social Security and say you're going to wait till 67, so that's 2 years of not getting that $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Well, if you add that all up, that could be a lot of money that's now having to be drained out of your other accounts. So the fallacy of that whole let's wait and then here, if I waited here versus now, is people forget about your other assets. So the only way to ever decide on Social Security is to have it inside an income plan. Because I can tell you easily which way works for your situation. If you have it inside an income plan, I can say, here, at age 80 or age 90, this is how much money you have. And if you do it this way versus this way, which one gives you more money when you're 80 or 90? Not from Social Security, but overall, in terms of your overall assets. Because if one ate up a bunch of assets and you have almost no money left just to wait to have a bigger Social Security check, and then your car breaks down or your house has a problem and you have no money because you only have is Social Security checks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not too good. So I find that that's the biggest thing that people need to do is really figure out, how does it go in your income plan? What's the best way to turn on that Social Security?
What do we need to know about other common sources of retirement income other than Social Security, Eric?
Yeah, well, having that Social Security income obviously is a big part of it. Lots of times people say, "Oh, it's not that much." It can be a lot of money, right? Yeah. So that's good, but it's not going to be enough. We all know that. And so, say you spend $8,000 a month in retirement, and you've determined with Social Security between you and your spouse you're going to get $5,000. Well, that means you got a gap of $3,000. Well, do you want to just have that all on maybe money? Maybe money's like, it may be there, it may not.
Yeah.
That's, maybe stuff's not the fun way to retire. That's the way to freak out your life, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, we like to have it where there's a little bit more higher confidence. So, if you could add some guaranteed foundational stuff, is that from a bank? Is it from an insurance company? Wherever. But if you know that you've got 1,000, 2,000 more coming in, now you barely have to get any money from your assets. So the market conditions aren't going to be as critical for you, in retirement. But that's the mistake people make, is they don't think about that. And then they retire on this hope, and you hope you hope everything's going to happen, but it may not. And then what happens? Well, there's not many options if you're 85 and almost out of money. So, again, these are things that we need to be thinking about, and, really having a plan, having that written income plan that says, hey, here's, with inflation, with taxes, with everything calculated in, am I going to be okay? And it's easy answer, yes, no, or you'll be okay until this date, right? Yeah. But again, at least now we've got time to fix it. So if you want to get some more information, if you want to have some stuff, will your money last as long as you? Are you paying too much? Social Security decisions, all these things are great quick reports that we have, really easy to read. They're in our digital toolbox. That's our Wealth Creator toolbox. Again, it's something no cost to you. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or you can download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
How can we keep from accidentally triggering higher taxes in retirement? That's next with Eric when Wealth Creator Radio continues.
Do you know whether your retirement plan has any weak points? Discover ways on giving your financial future the proper tune-up. Simply go online to wealthcreatortoolbox.com to gain a better understanding in taxes, Social Security, and other ways to manage your portfolio.
And that's how it's done.
That's wealthcreatortoolbox.com.
You're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. Eric is offering to help you create a retirement strategy. So many retirees don't have one as they're heading into, a most important time of your life where you're not going to be working anymore. He and his team at Heckman Financial are here to guide you so you can have a remarkable retirement. So we're talking today about how there are so many moving parts when it comes to preparing for retirement, so many decisions that can impact each other. And Eric, you could say that retirement planning is almost like trying to figure out a Rubik's Cube, right?
No, exactly. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of pieces, and a lot of stuff a lot of hidden gotchas that those just online calculators and other things aren't smart enough to figure out and do. And, so that's why I think people really need help knowing how to navigate to how to get this money back out. It's one thing to have it grow, but taking it back out, there's so many more issues.
Right. And that's why I'm so happy we do this show, just for all of us to learn. When we have knowledge, then we're going to feel better and we'll make better decisions. All right. So we've been talking about, taking Social Security, what we need to be doing to try to claim it at the right time. But for those people who are taking Social Security, they have to start thinking about those required minimum distributions, right? And the impact can be what is sometimes called the tax torpedo. I want you to explain that. How can we keep from accidentally triggering higher taxes?
Yeah, so the tax torpedo is this kind of funky spot in the tax code that first came out in the 80s when they said, we're only going to tax 50% of your Social Security. And then in the 90s, we're going to only tax 85% of your Social Security. It's like, okay, at least I haven't gotten to 100 yet. But one of the super sneaky things they didn't do was they never adjusted any of that for inflation. So whoever was, quote, wealthy in the 90s, that's a couple making $34,000 or 50%, and then $44,000 at 85% of their Social Security, then gets taxed. So what's this tax torpedo? Well, basically what we're talking about there is, say, you got Social Security turned on, you're living on savings initially, so you're almost in a basically zero tax bracket, and then you take out $5,000 to go on vacation out of your IRA. Well, that $5,000 may have now gone from zero tax on your Social Security to being now, 50% or even up to 85%. If you took out 10 or 15, for sure, it would get you up to, 85% of your Social Security being taxed. So that's all of a sudden, if you look at the tax rate, because all that income wasn't taxed and you just took out that little bit of money and it caused all of your income to be now all of a sudden taxable. That's what they call the tax torpedo. So again, something that, you may or may not hit. Maybe you need more money out of it than that and you're over the Social Security taxation. But a lot of times if you structure things right, you can actually live at least a few years early on in retirement pretty tax efficiently if you don't screw up and, get hit with a tax torpedo.
Right. That's why we need guidance, So let's talk about how we can have more control over the income taxes that we pay in retirement based on the way we take income from those retirement accounts.
Yeah, really the best way to kind of conceptually do it is think about, you've got 3 different buckets. So a lot of times actually in my live events that we do, I'll actually bring out some buckets and, think of the 3 types as one's taxable, meaning every year you have to pay some tax on it. So that'd be savings accounts, money markets, mutual funds, things like that, brokerage account. And then you got the tax deferred, which is like your 401ks, IRAs. So these are stuff that you don't pay tax on until you take it out. And then lastly, you got tax-free. Tax-free is stuff like Roth IRAs, specially designed life insurance, things like that. So the sad part is in our live events, usually we bring out the big bucket. And what's the big bucket? It's always tax deferred. 401ks, IRAs, right? That's where most people's money is. Usually around 70 to 80% of their money's in there. And they may have 10 or 15% in the taxable. And then we usually bring out it's almost a shot glass, kind of a red Solo cup shot glass. And that is how much most people have in tax-free, which is really sad, right? Because tax-free is obviously by far the best.
Of
and
course.
So one of the things to look at is how can you, before you get to retirement, get more and more money in that tax-free bucket? How can you get that bigger? Because then you get all sorts of control over your taxes. But if you haven't done that and you haven't done that advanced planning and you're in retirement, well, now it's okay. How much should I take from which and what's my tax situation going to look like? Am I going to hit those limits where my Medicare premiums start going up higher? Am I going to cause other things to be taxed? Am I going to hit with the tax torpedo? Only way to do that is you do that planning either at the very end of the year or the beginning of the year to figure out which buckets you're going to take money out of. The problem is if you try to do that in February and April when you're reporting on your last year's tax return, too late. You already took that money out. And so if you find out that messed you up, there's nothing you can do, right? So really what we need to do is we need to make sure you plan that ahead. And that's the biggest problem. So one of the things we did set up is a lot of information online in our Wealth Creator Toolbox. That Wealth Creator Toolbox has stuff on Social Security. Are you paying too much in taxes in retirement? Will your money last? Finding the right balance. And even some chapters of my book, Worry Less Wealth. You can even set a time to talk if you want to set up a 15 to 30 minute phone call there. So again, if you want to get that Wealth Creator Toolbox, all you have to do, super simple, text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or get it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Eric, tell us how you help people avoid making a misstep with their retirement savings.
Well, this has been my life's work for the last 30 years is trying to figure out what's the best way to do this. What works, what doesn't work. The biggest thing I've determined is the thing that does not work, and sadly your 401k forces you into this mode, is having 100% of your money in stocks and bonds.
Okay.
It just doesn't work because we all know every decade there's going to be a couple bad years. On average, 2 or 3 of them. So if you're going to be retired, hopefully for 3, maybe even 4 decades, you're going to have a lot of those bad years in there. And with those bad years come, you need to have some stuff that doesn't drop with the market. You need to make sure you have some money that's always going to be there. So first and foremost, you need some foundational money. You need some money that's guaranteed from loss, but still earns some good earnings and still has some good growth. But that money is going to be there for the rest of your life. You can take money out and not have a loss. And there's great insurance products that do that. You could even do it with banks if you want to, but there's some great tools out there that can help you do that. And so in those bad years, like in 2022, that's what we did for a lot of our clients. We started taking money out of those accounts. We did not take it out of the market stuff, so that way it gives the market money time to bounce around and go back up as it does over long periods of time. And then in between that, you want to have some steady income money, some stuff that's very low volatility, but pays really good dividends. Ideally, dividends at least on quarterly, if not monthly basis. And these are things that are not bouncing around, up and down 20% per month or something crazy like that. Mm-hmm. These are very, very stable, very low volatility stuff. And so between having that foundational and steady income money and the market money, I know our planning works. It's worked for the last 30 years for our clients. We've had a lot of clients that have been really, really appreciative that we've been able to be here, help them, guide them to that retirement through it. And things change. I mean, I was just meeting with somebody she's been retired for almost 15 years, and she's her monthly budget's almost double what it used to be because of inflation. And guess what? My income plan showed that would be the case. So right. We can go back to that old income plan and say, yeah, this is exactly what we planned for. And so we know it works, but you have to have a plan. And if you're doing this on your own, well, you only get one chance at it, and if you screw it up, it's pretty bad because it's the only chance you get, right, to retire. That's why you want to have somebody here to help you. So again, if you want to get access to some of our great digital tools that we have at the Wealth Creator Toolbox, all you got to do is text the word toolbox to get all those wonderful reports, our copy of our book, and even if you want to set a time, again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Still more to come with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. We'll be right back.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. There's a particular time of life this phrase couldn't be more appropriate. How can you know you'll live the retirement you've always imagined? After all, life can be so unpredictable. You've worked hard and saved. Watch your accounts go up and down with the market. Your advisor says, don't worry, you'll be fine. But you still don't feel confident. Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has a checklist to help you find out if you're on the right track for retirement. Take his checklist challenge. If you can check all the boxes with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, Eric can help you address any potential costly mistakes. To get Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial's complimentary checklist, call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. See if you've got it right. Take the checklist challenge today. Call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Hi, we're so glad to have you join us today. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. He is a well-known speaker and author. He can provide you with some guidance to get you to and through retirement with worry-less wealth. That is his goal for you. When you like to worry less, well, that's what this show is all about. Eric explains. Now, right now is a time, Eric, where I'm going to read some questions for you. Okay, we're going to dig into your Wealth Creator Radio mailbag, and then you're going to give us some answers. So these are from retirees. Are you ready for this?
Yep, let's go for it.
You're always ready. Okay. I'm planning on retiring in 3 or 4 years, and I'm thinking really hard about relocating. What are some things to consider as I'm trying to narrow down my options for where to move?
Well, probably the biggest one is, what are you going to do with your house? Are you going to sell it? You get the $500,000 if you're married, or $250,000 capital gain exclusion for single. Depending on how long you live there, for a lot of people in the Bay Area, they're way over that, so that you may have a pretty big taxable hit. So that's one thing to be thinking about. One benefit if you're staying in California, the new Prop 19 allows you to move your property tax basis from way back when to any other place in the state, so that can make it nicer if you're trying to move to the foothills or something. Obviously, if you're going to move to a tax-free state like Texas, Nevada, Washington, something like that, then that does play into a lot of things about your financial plan, because you're deferring California tax and then not having to pay it when you take it out. So that can be a big one. And then also, are you going to just rent the house? Are you going to rent where you're going to go to? There's lots of different options. So I would say just kind of get some pros and cons. I mean, one of the interesting things, actually, my neighbor did this. When they sold their house, they booked 5 one-month Airbnbs in different parts of the country. And so they just wanted to figure out where they wanted to live. 2 of them were locations where their kids are living, their adult children. but some weren't. And so, yeah, they just wanted to kind of get a feel for it. And I think it's actually almost always a better option if you can to, do a short-term rental or do something for a while before you get to know that neighborhood, because you may think this one area, this one town you want to move to is good, but then once you live there a little bit, you find out the traffic's bad or other things. And, so I think it's really good if you can to just, initially rent, just check it out. And then also try to spend some time in all seasons.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, especially if you're leaving the Bay Area where, we complain when it, the 1 or 2 days a year it hits freezing levels and stuff, and the rare days it hits 100. So, yeah, if you're going someplace where it's snowing and ice storms and, I've seen a lot of clients move to other places and, yeah, they're dealing with a lot of weather.
We're digging into Eric's Wealth Creator Radio mailbag, and here's another one. I like how my money has been performing in the markets, but I am starting to get a little bit worried about the risk that I'm taking. Now, this is my life savings, so what are some moves I should make with my money, Eric?
Yeah, so that's one of the critical things is I think people way too much depend on the stock market to always be good, and we know there's .com crashes. We know there's 08 crashes, COVID crashes, right? All these things. And so, yeah, you cannot depend 100% on the stock market. So you want to have some foundational money, some money that can't go away, some money that's guaranteed. You want to have some money that's guaranteed ideally for the rest of your lifetime. And you also want to have some steady income in addition to the market money. So, yeah, that'd be one of the things I would definitely recommend is start looking at those two other areas. Again, that's something we help with all of our clients here do is diversify that money out and make sure that you've got a plan that works in all conditions, all market conditions, because that's the only plan that you want.
Right, exactly. And so take us through your blueprint to worry less wealth, which is what you're offering today.
Yeah, so the blueprint basically covers the 5 critical areas: having an income plan, a written income plan that takes into account taxes, inflation, everything. Investment plan, how are those dollars set up? Are they in foundational, steady income, market money? Look at the taxes. When should you convert? When should you not? When should you be put money into what account? When should you take money out of which account? Look at the healthcare issues along the way. If you're retiring pre-65, post-65, long-term care. And then even legacy. Who's going to get your stuff at the end? What assets are better to leave behind? And all those types of things. So, that's one of the things that we've been doing here for a long time at Heckman Financial is creating that blueprint to worry less wealth. And, again, that's something we can create for you. There's no cost, no obligation. All you do is set up a 15 to 30-minute phone call. We'll talk about what's your situation, what concerns you have. And then from there, we can kind of build out that blueprint that you have already that you just don't know. And we'll tell you what's working and what areas you might have some issues in. And then we can figure out ways to address them. So, again, if you want to take advantage of that, all you have to do is set up that phone call. You can text the word VISIT to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word VISIT, 800-454-1184, 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Let Eric and his team at Heckman Financial help guide you to help you lay out your income for the rest of your life. You might be retired for 20, 30, maybe even 40 years, and he and his team are here to guide you. Here's another question, and this one has to do with Social Security, Eric. We're reaching into Eric's Wealth Creator Radio email bag, and here's one here. Could Social Security really keep up with the cost of living?
Supposedly the government says it will.
Yeah.
There was that huge increase for 2022 for inflation, but there's some years where there's been no increases and other ones where there have been in between. So, you can kind of count on anywhere from 1% to 3%, average increases, but Social Security is not that much money to start off with. I mean, for most people, that's not going to be a successful retirement if that's all you have. And so it's going to help. It's definitely not a bad thing, right? But it is something that you can't rely on Social Security because Social Security is not going to be enough to have any sort of meaningful retirement or existence, I guess I would call it. So, you definitely have to have other assets that are, outpacing that and keeping up with inflation.
That worries me about baby boomers. That's my generation, my peers. And, I know, several years ago, you and I were always talking about how people just haven't saved enough. What are you seeing mostly lately on people my age who are getting ready to retire?
Well, obviously, most of the clients that people come to me, they have done some savings, you know, so they, you know, have some built up, and they're trying to figure out, you know, some obviously have done very well, some not as well. And so it's like, okay, well, where do you want to, you know, how do you want to change stuff? Do you want to retire here, or you want to relocate, or do you want to work a few more years? You know, but that's the beauty of our income plan, is we can figure that out ahead of time, then make those decisions with some knowledge. You know, it's a lot worse when you're retired, then you're trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to live? And oh shoot, I should have not retired for another couple of years.
Right. So, yeah, there you go.
You don't want to have that. Yeah. So you want to plan that ahead for sure.
Make sure you have a plan for your income. Yeah. Okay, here's probably the last question I can get in for today. We're reaching into Eric's Wealth Creator Radio mailbag. This one is asking, can you explain what a qualified charitable distribution is? I've read a little bit about it. I'm still not sure exactly what it is and what the benefits are.
So a qualified charitable distribution, QCD. So this is basically for people who have that required minimum distribution. So, you know, if you're hitting 72, the goofy thing about this law is when they changed it to 72, they did allow you to still donate your money at 70 and a half. I don't know who's going to do that really, because you don't have to take the money out. So why would you donate it unless you're being overly generous? But, you know, the reality for most people when they're retired is most people can't itemize anymore. You know, with a lot of the eliminations of the deductions and the, you know, getting rid of the exemptions, but having the higher standard deduction. Lots of times people are, when they're retired, they either have a small mortgage or no mortgage, so they can't have that mortgage write-off and other things. So they can't usually get a write-off for charitable donations. So what this does is this says, okay, well, yeah, you got to take out, you know, there's so much money from your, you know, your, what we call your required minimum distribution, or RMD, from your retirement accounts. If you want, you can have that sent straight from whoever handles your IRA. So say if it's, you know, Fidelity, for example, go from Fidelity straight to that charity. You don't pay tax on it, but it meets the definition of you taking the money out.
Awesome.
And the cool thing is it kind of barely shows up on your tax return. It shows up there for a second, but comes right off. So it's not income. It's not a write-off, but it's just not income. So say you had to take out $10,000 and instead you donated that. That's not $10,000 of income. That's not, you know, stuff that you have to have a deduction for or anything else like that. You just don't pay the tax. So it's a great way to go. You know, again, that's one of those things where if you've got a plan, you work in that part of your plan, then it's easy to figure out how to donate that and when to do that. There's also things called donor advised funds that we use for people who have, you know, highly appreciated stock. That's a great way to you know, compile all your donations in 1 year. So there's a lot of different ways that you can really get some great tax benefits if you do some planning with not only a financial advisor who knows the financial markets types of stuff and investment products, but really also knows the taxes. So, you know, again, that's something we do here at Heckman Financial. So if you want to sit down with us and set up that blueprint to Worry Less Wealth, where we talk about that, you know, income plan, investments, taxes, healthcare, legacy, all you have to do is text us the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit, 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
You're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. We'll be right back with the rest of our show.
Become a wealth creator today. Text VISIT to 800-454-1184 to schedule your 15-minute call with Eric and his team. That's VISIT to 800-454-1184.
Hi, this is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. I'm Luann Fulmer. Eric and I often discuss challenges and risks that happen in retirement. So, Eric, I think it's time for you to give us an example of something that has happened, someone who has experienced one of those retirement obstacles. We call it a financial fail. So what do you have for us today, Eric?
This was, we'll call her Beth, but yeah, she had some health issues, and she was a nurse, and she could have had a lifetime pension, but she wanted just to take the lump sum distribution because she figured with her health it wouldn't last as long and, you know, be a smarter decision. And so we set up a way to have her have an income for life for part of the money, and then have, you know, a pot of the money that would also be available if she needed it. And then, of course, one of her daughters needed help, so she wanted to help her. And then another daughter needed help. She kept helping her, and she kept helping them and kept helping them. And, you know, after about 4 or 5 times saying that you're taking out too much, we almost basically stopped even having to tell her that because she was just death to the to the consequences or whatever you want to call it. But basically, she's spent down one account and then had to raid the account that was going to pay the lifetime income before we were going to turn it on. And it was just something that was pretty much a mess. And, I've seen that with a lot of clients where they think that they're helping the next generation by using up all their money, but no, you're not. They're younger. They can still struggle. They can still figure out a way to save. They can figure out a way to move to a cheaper area or do something different, right? There's always a solution long term. But there is no more time when you're in retirement. If you're retired and you're spending down assets too fast, you can't come back from that. So that's what we try to do every year with our clients when we're doing those progress meetings, and we're going through to see how things are going and making sure things are all on track. But we had another case where a couple they told us when they retired 3 years earlier that they're going to spend $9,000 a month in retirement, and when they did the math on how much they're withdrawing out of their bank accounts, it was 15. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a lot more. And we showed that they were going to be running out of money in about 10 years at that clip. And you have to be having somebody there to help you, to tell you these things, lots of times from an external viewpoint is a lot better because a lot of times you just don't see it and you're blind to it. So I would say one of the things that people want to get is get a lot of data, get a lot of education, really know what's going out there. And so one of the things we set up is all this great resources on the digital toolbox where will your money last as long as you? Are you paying too much in taxes? Even my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even a link to set up a time to talk with me. So all that is at the digital toolbox. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or go online directly at wealthcreatorradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.